I mean, it's fine. It's fine. It floats. It can shoot stuff. It's a bathtub. Seriously. It's a bathtub. But then again, creating a crappy craft, ship, is kind of in the nature of the game. Just wasting hours of your life.
Mouse button. Whilst we are here, let's use the extended. Let's make sure we are in this slot now. Will surely not be the last of them. Left click to remove the block. Open the inventory by pressing E.
Well done, you have completed this engine. Also remember that a failed design isn't a failure, it's a learning experience.
Then you have a ship. Now, that isn't exactly the greatest way to explain how to make a ship in this game, and more of a way for me to emphasize how much I utterly despise this game's tutorials and how it tries to teach you how to make a ship. But here, let's go into the specifics of how to make a ship so that you don't have to go through the tutorial. First, you have the bare necessities for your ship, starting with blocks to make your ship out of, having a large variety of uses and variants. Do you want a wooden craft that is easy to balance and is cheap but isn't very durable, or do you want a metal craft that is more difficult to balance and is more expensive but can take a punch? Maybe even do a hybrid of the two. Then you have your terrain control, propellers if you're in water, along with air pumps to make sure your ship doesn't become a submarine. Same for aircraft having thrusters or balloons. Then you go to your more technical aspects, like the fuel engine to make sure your ship has power by burning gas. Or you can make it electric, like the goddamn liberal scum you are! This is America, goddammit! Now we move on to the armaments to make your ship actually worthy of battle. Your cram cannons, advanced cannons, and your cannons, along with simple weapons and prefabs if you don't quite have the knowledge to make those. First are your cram cannons, which are the high damage weapons, which can be specialized to be artillery, but are generally the simplest cannon to work with. Next are your advanced cannons, being the general, multi-purpose, medium-range weapons on your ship, which can be specialized to be anti-air or armor-piercing, generally being more difficult to work with. We're not talking about lasers or particle cannons. And finally, you have your missiles, the most versatile and easiest to use. They can be anti-air, anti-missile, EMP, you name it, it can do it. Besides fixing your marriage. I'm sorry, buddy. And last, you have the more superficial stuff like decorations. Do you want your ship to be elegant? Alternatively,
degenerates like you belong on a cross.
But we can't expect God to do all the work.
with all this taken into consideration, all I can really say is experiment. The only way to learn this game is trial and error. This isn't a build upon what you know game. This is a kick you down a hole while you're going through a midlife crisis and hope you climb out game. Now, with all this knowledge you've certainly mastered and have successfully created an epic ship, it's time to tackle the main campaign, the quest for Neater. Once you get in, you're probably going to immediately notice there are logistics. Simply make a logistics ship, or repurpose one of your already existing ships into one. With this out of the way, you should begin procuring resources by making some drills. Just slap some on, and you got more flowing in. You will also need to make a satellite for vision. With your satellite, you should notice two factions, the Onyx Watch and the Deepwater Guard, whom are the most relevant as of now, and you can find the rest in the meeting room where you decide your diplomatic stance. Or just don't, and burn the world. The first faction is the Deepwater Guard, the pirates of the Somaliland, who are the beginner faction and get beaten up by everyone else. They have very scrappy ships and are fairly easy to take out. Second is the Onyx Watch, the jihadist dwarves, with all their ships looking like fortresses, being slower than most, having good armor, and looking pretty medieval. Now you simply wait for the meeting to happen and declare war on the Deepwater Guard or Onyx Watch if you're feeling risky. Now with this, you're going to need to expand your borders by capturing tiles. This doesn't really serve a purpose, they're just kinda there. Whilst you expand your borders and are building yourself up, the enemy is likely to send out interception squads
I live in Smethwick, Birmingham, if you want the fucking door!
to halt you. They begin small but build up over time, with the entire campaign coming down to a cycle of getting resources, making ships with those resources, and using those ships to get even more resources. It's a lot more fun than it sounds, but I find the most fun aspect to be the general building of the ships and testing them out as a unit. For example, my bathtub being a general purpose ship with it having my first custom advanced cannon, which was a big milestone for me personally. Speaking of building ships, you're going to spend 90% of your time in the game constructing and fine-tuning the ships. How do you want your interior to be made? How much armor do you want protecting the AI? Do you want missiles or do you want torpedoes? Which is what I spent most of my time doing in my almost 150 hours with this game, planning my ships, experimenting with my ships, and testing my ships. Basically, think of the campaign as not the main event, but a way to test your ships and have some good fun. Whilst you're doing all of this, there is some music to enjoy, and it's good music with a wide range, but it can be a bit overdramatic at times. Seriously, you'll be figuring out why your ship is flipping over, and some intense music is playing like it's a Call of Duty game.
Mr. Deepwater Guard, man, has caused the Imperial Japanese Navy to reappear in the modern day and is combating with the Russian Navy. You've got to stop him!
The soundtrack fits well into the feel of the game, ranging from majestic to high action to somber. You should get my point with the music. Well-composed tracks, which fit well into the game. Nothing too crazy, but it works well. Now, with the music aside, let's quickly talk about the graphics. The graphics look good, having a very clear, almost cartoony style, with outlines of ships being very clear and easy to read. The game can also have some solid lighting, mostly at night. It serves very well, and I think it was a very smart decision to go with a clear art style. They could have gone for a more realistic, more technically impressive art style, but it would have made it more difficult to tell what's going on, especially when you're testing a ship. But it's nice to look at while still maintaining visual clarity. Now to start wrapping things up, you have UI. I don't fuss about it too much, it works well, it's serviceable, gives you information at a glance, and doesn't become cluttered even with more technical stuff. And then the sound design is also serviceable with explosions sounding like explosions. It's not good, but it suffices. The only problem is that it has very little variety and can become very repetitive. From the Depths is a heavily enjoyable game that requires just a bit of masochism to really get into it. With the game having a fairly brutal learning curve. I'll certainly play more of it, and hey, maybe you'll even see about playing it. The game is fairly stable, with an absurd amount of potential really only coming down to what you want to do with it. Only thing I can say is,
Don't be a liberal scumbag and use exclusively electricity! This is America, goddammit! We use oil!
thank you for watching my first, actually structured video. It probably has a lot of flaws. Point them out, criticize me constructively. I do plan on returning to From the Depths eventually, once I, figure out the game a bit more. Yeah, I don't know. It may happen, may not. There's still a lot more I can talk about, but hey, hopefully you enjoyed the video. Goodbye.